Daily Words of God. In believing in God, you must at least resolve the issue of having a normal relationship with God. If you do not have a normal relationship with God, then the meaning of your belief in God is lost. The establishment of a normal relationship with God is entirely achievable with a heart that is quiet in God's presence. Having a normal relationship with God means being able not to doubt and not to deny any of His work, and being able to submit to His work. It means having correct intentions in God's presence, not making plans for yourself, and considering the interests of God's family first in all things. It means accepting God's scrutiny and obeying God's arrangements. You must be able to quiet your heart in God's presence in all that you do. Even if you do not understand God's will, you must still fulfill your duties and responsibilities to the best of your ability. Once God's will has been revealed to you, act on it, and it will not be too late. When your relationship with God has become normal, then you will also have normal relationships with people. Everything is built on the foundation of God's words. Eat and drink the words of God, then put God's requirements into practice. Correct your views, and avoid doing anything to resist God or disturb the church. Do nothing that does not benefit the lives of your brothers and sisters. Say nothing that is unhelpful to others, and do nothing shameful. Be just and honorable in everything you do, and ensure that your every action is presentable before God. Although the flesh may sometimes be weak, you must be able to put the interests of God's family first, without greed for personal profit, and you must be able to act righteously. If you can practice in this way, then your relationship with God will be normal. In everything you do, you must examine whether your intentions are correct. If you are able to act according to the requirements of God, then your relationship with God is normal. This is the minimum standard. Look into your intentions, and if you find that incorrect intentions have arisen, be able to turn your back on them and act according to the words of God. Thus will you become someone who is right before God, which in turn demonstrates that your relationship with God is normal, and that all that you do is for God's sake, not your own. In all you do and all you say, be able to set your heart right and be righteous in your actions, and do not be led by your emotions, nor act according to your own will. These are principles by which believers in God must conduct themselves. Small things can reveal a person's intentions and stature, and so, for someone to enter onto the path of being made perfect by God, they must first rectify their intentions and their relationship with God. Only when your relationship with God is normal can you be made perfect by Him. Only then can God's dealing, pruning, discipline, and refinement achieve their intended effect in you. That is to say, if human beings are able to keep God in their hearts and do not pursue personal gain or give thought to their own prospects, but instead bear the burden of entering life, do their best to pursue the truth, and submit to God's work, if you can do this, then the goals you pursue will be correct, and your relationship with God will become normal. Making right one's relationship with God can be called the first step of entry into one's spiritual journey. Although man's fate is in God's hands and is predestined by God and cannot be changed by man, whether you can be made perfect by God or be gained by Him depends on whether your relationship with God is normal. There may be parts of you that are weak or disobedient, but as long as your views and your intentions are correct, and as long as your relationship with God is right and normal, then you are qualified to be made perfect by God. If you do not have the right relationship with God and act for the sake of the flesh or your family, then regardless of how hard you work, it will be for nothing. If your relationship with God is normal, then everything else will fall into place. God looks at nothing else, but only at whether your views in your belief in God are correct, whom you believe in, for whose sake you believe, and why you believe. If you are able to see these things clearly and practice with your views well disposed, then you will make progress in your life, and you will also be guaranteed entry onto the right track. If your relationship with God is not normal, and the views of your belief in God are deviant, then all else is in vain, and no matter how hard you believe, you will receive nothing. Only after your relationship with God becomes normal will you win praise from Him when you forsake the flesh, pray, suffer, endure, submit, help your brothers and sisters, expend more of yourself for God, and so on. Whether what you do has value and significance depends on whether your intentions are right and your views correct. Nowadays, many people believe in God as if they were tilting their heads to look at a clock. Their perspectives are skewed, and they must be righted with a breakthrough. If this problem is resolved, everything will be fine. If not, everything will come to nothing. Some people behave well in my presence, but behind my back, all they do is resist me. This is a manifestation of crookedness and deceitfulness, and this type of person is a servant of Satan. They are the typical embodiment of Satan, come to test God. You are only a correct person if you are able to submit to my work and my words. As long as you are able to eat and drink the words of God, as long as everything you do is presentable before God, and you behave justly and honorably in all that you do, as long as you do not do shameful things or things that would harm the lives of others, and as long as you live in the light and do not allow yourself to be exploited by Satan, then your relationship with God is in proper order.